Marsh Nationalists actually won one seat. They're up from 3 to 4, even though their share of the vote is actually down. So that will probably save the neck of their leader, Leanne Wood. The Lib Dems have been completely wiped out, losing their one seat. Now, interestingly, why did that happen? You know, Jeremy Corbyn wasn't an omnipresent figure here in Wales during the campaign, unlike Theresa May, who came here 3 times, underlining the very high hopes that the Tories had in Wales. It was here that she coined that phrase, you know, strong and stable, when she was down in Bridgend. That was one seat they hoped to take, and they simply didn't. A very bad night for the Conservatives in Wales.
Maybe the view was just that they thought the National Assembly would do a rather good job.
Indeed, Wales Labour leader Karen Jones is popular here. As I said, Jeremy Corbyn and he don't see eye to eye on many issues. We didn't see Jeremy Corbyn down in Wales that often in the campaign, and this maybe was a vote for the Welsh Assembly and Karen Jones. Obviously, people get confused with devolution. Those issues that are here in Wales, like health and education, kept on coming up, even though technically they didn't count in Wales in this election.
Right, but it's going to be business as usual then in Wales.
Yes, absolutely. You know, Labour is the dominant party. They've had a majority in Wales ever since we've had the modern parliamentary system. That looked, as I said, at the start of the campaign as though the Tories might win a majority here. Simply hasn't happened. The problem for Wales is now that the Karen Jones will want a seat, of course, at the Brexit negotiating table. But of course, Wales voted for Brexit. It's another part of this confusing picture from across the UK, and we simply don't know what the answers are going to be to that.
Andy, thanks, Burrow.
It's 13 minutes to 7. Our main headline this morning: Britain now has a home parliament after a tumultuous night in which the Conservatives have lost their common. Interesting times, no doubt. Dan Hodges, thank you very much indeed. Commentator for the Mail on Sunday. And of course, the Mail, the Daily Mail, is a big fan of Theresa May, so they'll be looking at their front pages at the moment. Tom, just a final word from you now. When you said to me earlier that the pastors are going to start looking at how they do things in the future, what have you learned? What has Congress learned? What has people learned who are in the business of predicting election results, except that there is nothing predictable about election results anymore?
Well, firstly, is that predicting behaviour is extremely difficult. As I say, I think polls have plenty of uses, and we learn a lot about the election from polling, but predicting behaviour is very difficult. I think YouGov had quite an experimental election. They tried some new ways of doing things, and I think we might have to be looking at things like modelling and data rather than simply asking people. They did lots of modelling, and they...
What do you mean by modelling of data? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. To me.
Yeah, of course. So it's looking at what we're finding in survey data when you're asking people, interviewing people, and then actually using sort of other factors and to kind of turn it into seat projections, which is particularly useful. And where YouGov did very well, so they ran lots of sort of statistical techniques and things like that to move from simply what people are saying in the past to use sort of past elections, turnout data, that sort of thing, to work out what might be happening in the race rather than just the sort of reported behaviour, because we know people aren't particularly great at saying whether they will or won't do something. They might change their mind, it might rain, they might not bother to turn up.
But it's definitely going to change, otherwise you'll be voted out.
The industry absolutely needs to look at what it's doing and how it can be used and what's the best thing for them to be doing.
No more trust you. Tom, thank you very much. You're particularly responsible in this election. Listen, Petri with you here until 7 when Vanessa will be taking over the battle. Vanessa, what are you talking about this morning? No idea.
Let me have a think about it. Gosh, I mean, London is awake in shock this morning. The phrase "a hung parliament" hangs over us like the sword of Damocles. We all remember when this type of thing happened before. People said the coalition government would never last. Then there was this extraordinary suggestion all different parties are going to mesh together until we finally got, do you remember, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems together in a most uncomfortable union, which wreaked all sorts of havoc, of course, with the Lib Dems, which is why this morning Vince Cable, re-elected to Twickenham, congratulations to him, says no talk from us of forming any kind of coalition. We're not up for a deal at all with any party, so don't ask us. We don't want to do that again. Meanwhile, we have the DUP, one of the senior MPs, the DUP, saying, perfect territory for us to form some kind of deal with the Tories. So, I mean, there's everything to play for, everything up for grabs, but I think it's better say that Theresa May massively miscalculated this one. It's been an absolute fiasco as far as she's concerned, because it's in a worse position than the position she started from.
The worst political gamble, you could say, ever.
Impossible not to think about the cash, though. What does it cost everybody to end up in a worse position than you were in before? Of course, Jeremy Corbyn swiftly calling for her resignation, saying she needs to sit down, or stand down, and have a lie down to recover from all of this. And I think we all need exactly the same thing, as we just struggle to make sense of what has happened and what possibly is going to unfold in our own immediate futures. And particularly the fact that she created this baton for herself, in which she said, you need me to negotiate this strong, swift and stable Brexit. Well, do we? That's one of the questions people are asking this morning. And if not her, who? Oh my gosh.
And, Vanessa, lots of people as well saying that within a year we'll have another general election. That's something else to
Oh, someone pass me some kind of paracetamol. His own brand. Any brand will suffice. Okay, I'm coming up at 7 o'clock.
Vanessa, thank you very much indeed. So, Vanessa, with you in under 10 minutes.
And so we are very much weakened, and as a country we are weakened because we don't have that strong and stable leadership, frankly.
How quickly could we get a new Prime Minister?
I actually genuinely don't know the answer to that. Did you see with our... No, I don't have anything, because we know that one of the great things about the Tory party is that we don't mess about. We do tend to get on with it. And we need that certainty, because we're meant to be going into these crucial negotiations.
But if you change Prime Minister, for example, to Boris Johnson, let's say someone else, why are you not facing even more if you're or someone? We wouldn't have given that choice.
Well, truthfully, I have no idea what might happen. It's like all options on the table. So we may have a new leader, and then we have perhaps the same problem, no overall majority. So do we go in for yet another election with no doubt many other people? Because the woman that, of course, expressed her complete despair at another election.
The woman from
I
Bristol.
just simply do not know. But I do know that this morning many people will be waking up in a state of shock, but also in a state of despair, because we don't have that certainty. We don't have a mandate to get on and do the most important set of negotiations our country has done in generations. This is bad news. It's also very bad news.
I'm going to leave it there, I'm afraid, Anna Sue. Thank you for joining us.
12 minutes to 7, one of the Lib Dems, Jo Swinson, returned to Parliament after 2 years in East Dunbartonshire. She beat her SNP rival. But overall, not a terribly good night for the Lib Dems, Ms Swinson.
Well, we've increased our seats by 50%, and I think that's a good step forward.
Still only got 12.
Yes, indeed, but coming on from an election 2 years ago that was incredibly challenging, we've got the foundations for the Lib Dem fight back. We have the most members we've ever had, with more than 100,000, but translating that activism into lots of gains in a general election that is called at very short notice is not something
All
that's
right,
straightforward.
how are you going to behave in a hung Parliament?
But constructively, but putting the government under scrutiny, because we have the most complex set of negotiations that the country has faced in terms of Brexit. The Conservative Party did not have a mandate for the very extreme vision of Brexit that they were setting out, and I think what the Liberal Democrats will be doing will be seeking to make sure that we are asking the difficult questions, we're putting pressure on the government, and obviously there's not going to be any kind of large working majority for the government, even if they do manage to
So
have
there are no circumstances in which you would try to keep them in power. Stability of the nation and all that?
Well, we've been very clear we're not making any coalitions and not making any deals. We will be.
But you might well vote with them.
Well, as we always did in opposition, if you agree with what the government's doing and you think that a particular bill that they bring forward or a particular issue is the right thing to do, then of course you would do that. And I was in opposition for 5 years, from 2005 to 2010, and we voted with the Labour government when we agreed with what they were trying to do.
But in conditions where you might have to decide between Tories and Labour, where do you be inclined to go?
Well, on an issue-by-issue basis, depending what the particular proposal is that we need to vote on. We will look at that, and we will. I think what we also have in terms of our expanded team in the House of Commons is we've not only added numbers and some great fresh talent and new faces, we also have experienced people like Vince Cable and Ed Davey coming back, and I think that's going to put us in a very good position to put the government under scrutiny, people who have had understanding of being in government and the decisions that are across the minister's desks, and are therefore able to really add a huge amount of value as we approach these negotiations.
And you'll still be pressing for a second referendum?
Well, we've been very clear that once the details are known, we think it should be the people that have the final say, and it's entirely possible that as the negotiations get underway and proceed, that the public more widely may well start to create more pressure for that if it looks apparent that the deal is going to be a bad one. It may well be that we're seen to have been quite prescient on that, but we'll have to see obviously how those negotiations proceed.
Joe Swinson, many thanks.
4 minutes to 7. This has been a night not just of great political drama, but a personal drama too, not least for the Prime Minister Theresa May. Matthew Parris, the Times correspondent, former Tory MP of course, has been following her campaign. Can you remember, Matthew, a Prime Minister who has won an election, but for whom it has been such a dramatic personal setback?
Not only can I not remember it, I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's a drama of a kind I'm 67 that I've never experienced in politics.
Is she doomed, therefore?
I don't think it's so much a matter of whether she's doomed. I don't think she'll want to carry on. It's not a matter of her clinging on by her fingernails and having to be dragged out of Downing Street. She's got a strong sense of dignity, a strong sense of duty, and a strong sense of what's best for the country and the